if someone's struggling today, answer is asking yourself the bigger questions of life. Like, why are you here? What is this all about? Right? And what do you believe? What's important to you? Where are you supported and where do you have right? And then how can you tap into that over and over again? Because that's basically what I've been able to do.
In this episode, we'll learn how to overcome triggers and limitations from trauma. Helping us with this is a trauma-informed coach and the host of Living Beyond Limits podcast. Welcome to the show, Mercy. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me today. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you. So I'm pumped up a little bit, to let the listeners out there hear your story, hear about your transformation journey so far. And that's why I would like us to get into it already. I would love to learn from your life transformation journey so far. Like, what was it like to be, or what is it like to be a trauma survivor and chronic illness warrior for 20 years plus into your sobriety journey?
Yeah, it is. It's always interesting, I think is a really fair answer. For the longest time in my life, I always envisioned healing would be like this set arrival point, right? That I would just arrive there and everything would be as I thought it should be. But what I've come to learn is that really healing is a way of life. And it is this constant, ever evolving process that happens as a person who's been highly traumatized and lived through addiction and chronic illness and all of those things. And it's this daily practice that I've implemented to be able to sustain a lifestyle that is in alignment with the way I want to live and who I want to be today.
Hmm. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. I love what you talked about. Healing is not just like a linear journey or a straight line. It's a lot of curves and bars that comes with it. And I mean, I've got to experience this personally and also learn from a lot of listeners and also a lot of guests that have been on the show themselves, talking about, how healing is not just out today I got sick and tomorrow I got healed and that's all, without anything in between. And while preparing for this conversation, I got to read about your story also because in your childhood days, you experienced a lot of, trauma or illnesses and you had to go through a lot of surgical process. And so I'd just like to learn from that period of your life. Like, how was it like for you at that moment or those moments in your life, having to go through surgery over and over, having to, you know, experience an autoimmune condition that, you thought you would live with for the rest of your life?
Yeah. So what I've really discovered about my whole journey is that as I was a young person and going through all of these experiences that were really difficult in terms of my physical well-being, being really difficult from the moment that I was born. My first surgery was at 10 weeks. My last was at 18 years old and 23 in all. Growing up in a home with not a lot of resources, no running water and no electricity for a time, an alcoholic father, my own sexual identity, all of these things going on. And what I really discovered about all of it is that as we go through life, we start to have these experiences, and these experiences cause us to start to believe things about who we think we are, who we think we're supposed to be, or who we don't think we're supposed to be, right? And those beliefs then create our thoughts, and our thoughts then create how we feel, right? So for me, I spent a lot of time feeling like I wasn't worthy of really anything, that I didn't matter, that I didn't belong. Um, and those beliefs translated into thoughts like, okay, so how am I gonna fit in? Like I don't fit in anywhere in the world, and who's ever gonna love me? And do I deserve to be loved? And then those turned into feelings of shame and isolation and depression, anxiety, despair. And that affected my behavior, right? Our feelings translate to what we end up doing in our life based on how we feel. And so what I ended up doing is a lot of behavior that actually was self-harming, right? Addiction and overworking and hustling for other people's love and acknowledgement rather than finding this within myself. And that set me up for a lifetime of chronic illness, addiction, unhealthy behavior, and unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah. And I have follow-up questions already, but I would like to them one after the other. We'll talk about your identity and how you navigated that later. But I first want to talk about addiction, for example, talking about your addiction to the alcohol addiction that you had. Can you like walk us through that journey? Like, how did it start? What made you what made you get addicted to alcohol, and how were you able to then overcome the addiction?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started experimenting. I mean, I grew up in an alcoholic home, as I said. So, alcohol was always around me. And it was really mirrored for me that alcohol was a solution, right? Like, and so early in middle school, I started experimenting with alcohol. And by the time I was in high school, I was drinking and using drugs. And really, it started because of the beliefs I had about myself, the way I felt about who I was and not being worthy. And that was so painful to acknowledge to myself, and I couldn't acknowledge it. And so instead, I tried to, wipe it away with drugs and alcohol. And then I was in a car accident when I was 17 years old, and three people lost their lives that day in that accident. And I hit that car. And even though I was never legally found responsible for that, I assigned that responsibility to myself. These lives were lost, and I felt responsible for it. And so that plummeted me into addiction. And it was so painful to just literally be alive and breathe air because I didn't feel worthy of that. And so the only way I knew how to cope with any of it was drugs and alcohol. I tried to go to therapy for some time at a younger age, and it was I couldn't relate. I couldn't articulate really how I felt or what was going on or express any of those things. I mean, I was a teenager, and I had been through a catastrophic event. And so what ended up happening is I stayed in that cycle of addiction for 10 years. And I was at the point that I drank and drugged every single day. I could not stop, literally. And I had a daughter. I met a woman and I had a daughter. She had a daughter, and I started raising her when she was 8 years old. And it became very clear to me in one moment that I was doing the exact same thing to her that was done to me. I was raising her in a home that I was an addict, and she didn't choose that. She didn't ask for that, and I made a decision that I was going to get clean and sober, and that was over 21 years ago, and I've never drank or drugged since that day. And I started working a program of recovery, and I went to therapy, and I just wanted to get well. I wanted to be a healthy person, and I was doing all of these things, and I thought that I was getting well. But really, in hindsight, what I ended up doing was I changed one addiction for the other, stopped drinking and drugging, and I started working like a maniac. And what was happening is I was getting value and worth out of the work that I was doing because I was in sales. And so the better I did at my job, the more accolades I received, the more money I earned. And so all of my self-esteem was coming from what I was doing rather than just being who I was. And ended up fueling a whole nother set of problems. And I ended up almost dying of illness, really because of the amount of stress I was under constantly.
That's so deep. I mean, you touched a lot of things already. Like, I'm happy that you noticed that that pattern early in life, like, having the daughter in your household, and you notice you are behaving the same way to her, like, like your parents also did. And that could have led her to also get addicted to alcohol or drugs, also like you got, addicted. So I'm happy that you are aware of that fact, and you then took the step to recover from that. And there's something else that you said that is very relatable, and that, replacing one addiction with the other. We could say that, okay, the addiction to alcohol and drugs is horrible, is bad, but then a lot of us are also addicted to our work, and it's something that we're trying to numb through that. Also, we're trying to numb maybe the fear of facing our traumas, or working on our fears, or working on different issues of our lives, and then we're covering it up with, you know being very hardworking on, and trying to win all the accolades and all the awards, and break all the glass ceilings possible. Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
that's very deep. Yeah. So for someone out there, for example, who is, you know, trying to overcome an addiction right now, what would you say is the best thing for the person to do, so that the person avoids the mistake of replacing one addiction with something else that seems better, but is also an addiction?
Yeah, that's always such a difficult question to answer because addiction is so multifaceted. And as you just said, right, like we're trying to numb something out. And that's why we're doing that behavior, whatever it might be, cutting ourselves, eating, working out, working, whatever, wherever you're stuck, right, in that cycle. So I think if you're asking for just one answer, the first thing is to stop doing whatever it is you're doing, right? And I know that sounds a lot easier than what it is. I totally understand because I tried to stop many, many times before I actually stopped. But stopping is what gave me clarity on what was going on, like why I was doing the behavior that I was doing. Right. And so then when I got clarity on why I was doing it, then I could start treating root cause instead of the symptom, right? Because the symptom is the behavior that we're doing. So if I'm over drinking, then the symptom is the drinking. That's not the problem. It looks like the problem initially, but the problem really is the trauma that's untreated that's causing me to drink. But I couldn't see that until I stopped drinking. So it's like the first thing is to arrest the behavior that is creating the addictive cycle.
Yeah. I love what you say, and that's, I think, our motto for this podcast. Like, pause, take a break, and reflect on life. Like, whenever you're having experiencing an addiction, or a behavior that is repeating itself over a long period of time, it's better to stop, like you said, stop, and have an observation. What am I doing with this behavior? What am I trying to hide or run away from? Yeah, and
Right.
I guess that's the beginning of one's healing, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. Absolutely.
Yes. So I would love to I talk about, the second part, from you growing up and navigating your identity. Like, can you shed some light on that? Like, how was it like for you to find yourself at a very young age, getting into adulthood, and also overcoming the self-doubt that came with, finding your true self?
Yeah, that it was a really big challenge. I went to a Catholic school and I was raised in a really Catholic family, very Catholic family. And so it was really intimidating because I was sitting in a Catholic school and recognizing like something's off. You know what I mean? Like I knew at a really young age that I was not like all the other kids in my class because I was looking at little girls and finding myself interested in that, in whatever, first, second grade, whenever it was, very early, but feeling full of shame and terrified to admit who I was, and kept thinking and telling myself, if I can just shove this down, like I just keep shoving this down, then maybe I won't have to deal with it, right? Like maybe I won't have to ever be this. And I literally thought that if I prayed enough, that I would be alleviated of this. And because I felt like it was like an affliction, like something was wrong with me. I made a wrong choice somewhere or something, right? And um the truth is obviously, right? That's not accurate thinking at all. But because of the culture that I was brought up in, I was taking the responsibility to be my own. When I finally came out around the age of 20, um, I was met with a lot of resistance, and people were very unkind to me. People in my own family, not my mom, but one of my grandmothers was very unkind to me, and um, you know, made me really, really doubt myself. And so I waited another 3 years before I fully came out, to be who I was. And then a lot of things that people don't talk about around coming out is your own internal homophobia, right? I had grown up in a very, very small town of 250 people in northern Vermont, which is just, for example, it's a very white population. You don't see much diversity in any way whatsoever in between religions, race, ethnicity, cultural. It's just very white. It so you don't so not being exposed to anything, you think it's the tendency can be that other things are wrong or scary or whatever. And so I had thought that even though this is who I was, clearly who I was, that it was wrong and it was bad. And there was something wrong with me for being this way. And so I hated myself for it, right? I turned this all into self hatred. And literally, I mean, I'm 48 years old now, and it probably took me until I was about 35 to 36 years old to really truly accept who I am as I am. Um, and when I say that, I mean being a lesbian specifically. So it was a lot of work in therapy to really work with my belief systems and my thoughts and my feelings about myself.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, it's something that a lot of people, experience and go through also. And it's always nice when, someone like you share your story so that other people out there, could be informed and know they are not alone on this journey.
Right.
Well, I'd like to know, like, you said you faced a lot of resistance, you faced a lot of challenges, after coming out. Um, how were you able to stay resilient on that journey? Like, how were you able to live through that phase of life where everyone or a lot of people were against you and, challenging you or treating you badly?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like resilience is the theme of my life. Really, since the day that I was born, I needed medical intervention the moment that I came out of the womb. So, yeah, resilience is just ingrained in me. I have moments where I want to give up, just like anybody else, but there's something inside of me that refuses to let that happen. I might get down and out for a day or two, but the idea of giving up is just not something I will succumb to. I feel like I've created purpose in my life, and purpose has given me so much motivation to continue to go. I have a really strong spiritual practice. So I feel like if someone's struggling today, answer is asking yourself the bigger questions of life. Like, why are you here? What is this all about? Right? And what do you believe? What's important to you? Where are you supported and where do you have right? And then how can you tap into that over and over again? Because that's basically what I've been able to do.
Mm.
Ask myself those greater questions and then figure out where I have resource and support and where I don't, quite frankly, right? Where I don't. And then don't look for a resource where I know I don't have it.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's very important to talk about, finding the right community for you, the right people, the right resources for you to help you on your journey. I mean, no matter what it might be that you're facing, it could be any other thing else. I think it's very vital for us to we can't do life alone. We can't walk through life alone. It's important for us to look for the right people, the right resources, the right community that could help us to grow and to come out of any challenging situation that we are facing. And that's where places like, for example, your Instagram page could be of help. I mean, for lots of people that love to use social media, they could just follow you on Instagram and follow your work. all on your website and with all your resources that you have there also. But there's the first question you asked, or you said, you made mention of when it comes to and asking yourself the bigger questions. You talked about knowing why you are on this earth, your purpose, your reason, your why. How are you able to answer that question? I'm asking this question right now because I want, no, there are people out there who don't know, who are not 100% sure or are not certain of why they exist. They don't know their purpose. So from your experience, how were you able to find your why and how were you able to find your purpose?
Yeah, that's a good question. You ask good questions, Toby. You keep me on the edge of my chair. I mean, a lot of it goes into my spiritual practice, right? A lot of it comes from what I believe spiritually, which is really just that we are all connected, that every single thing that I think, say, and do affects you, whether you're right here next to me or you're around the world. It really doesn't matter. That there's this source of energy, and that I believe that we come here to learn lessons, to evolve ourselves to be the greatest version of ourselves that we can possibly become. I believe that is every single person's purpose. And so sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in what am I supposed to be, right? Like, I'm supposed to be a teacher, or I'm supposed to be a law enforcement officer, or I'm supposed to be whatever, right? And we get caught up in the what. But for me, it's more about the why and the how, right? And so it's about how am I going to live my life today that's in alignment with why I believe I'm here, right? If I believe I'm here for my own evolution and the evolution of all beings on earth and to raise the consciousness of the planet, then the way that I conduct myself is the most important thing I can do today, whether I be a teacher, a law enforcement officer, a banker, whatever. Right. And so that is my own personal conviction. And how I got there is just simply by living the life that I've lived. I don't believe there's so many times that I should have died, literally. I didn't. And I don't know why I didn't. And it's really not important to me anymore as to why I didn't and they did. But that question haunted me for years and years and years. And today I just know that I did. And so I need to make the most of what I have today. I need to give it my all. I need to be all in 100%. And what that looks like for me is so different than the way it used to look. Today, it is literally about being the best version of myself. So that means connected to who I am, living an embodied life instead of being over here, being busy doing instead of being kind to myself first, right? So every thought that crosses my mind, is it kind? If it's not, then I need to do some work there. So, because if I can't be kind to myself, then I certainly cannot be kind to you. If I'm being judgmental and ridiculing of my own self, then I'm going to do it to you also. So the work starts with me and how much I can love my own self so that I can take that outward into the world. And that's really my purpose. And again, it used to be so much about accomplishments, right? Like getting the house and the right car and the right partner and the right fence in my yard and having the dogs and all of these outward things. And today my life is really singularly focused and it is all about who I can be and the highest and greatest version of myself so that I can take that to other people.
I love that. Who can I be in the eyes and greater version of myself and taking that to other people? That tip, yeah. I believe once we're able to find that for ourselves, then we know our purpose. Once we're able to, you
Right.
know, get our higher self, then we'll be able to know what we are meant to do on this planet, on this earth.
That's right.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I mean, I've learned a lot from you already from this conversation. And I believe a lot of people out there have also learned a lot. But there's a question that keeps coming to my mind, and that's, you've experienced a lot of trauma in the past, a lot of different situations in the past. And I believe, I mean, from my own personal experience too, from time to time you get triggered, for different reasons. And sometimes it could, all these things that we've experienced in our past also could cause some limitations or make us face some limitations in life. So how do you deal with all of those? Like getting triggered, like maybe a very innocent person coming up with a different action and activity, and that triggers something that you've gone through or you even thought you've healed from, you've forgotten about, and it comes back again. And sometimes you are faced with an opportunity, and because of what you've experienced in the past, you maybe not take it, or limitations like that. Basically, how do you deal with all those situations?
Yeah, that's a really great question also. So basically what I've done is I've created a coaching program um that walks people through this. And basically what I do is exactly what I did myself. And in the first month, all we have to do is really focus on what we believe, what we're thinking, how we feel, and what the outcome of our feelings are, which is our behaviors, right? And you get really, really clear about that. And what that will uncover is how those beliefs are causing a lot of the triggers that we are experiencing, right? I had no idea that my own mind was creating my own suffering.
Mm.
Had no idea, right? And so after you get clear on this process, this thinking process that we all have, regardless of who you are, where you come from, right? Whatever your experiences are, we all have that. And then learning how to regulate my nervous system was the next key component. And because when we experience trauma, what happens in the brain is the brain gets stuck in fight or flight. It believes that there is danger constantly, and it stays stuck in that spot of danger. And so you're constantly living in hypervigilance and scanning the environment for what's going to go wrong next. But if you can heal the nervous system by learning how to regulate it, then when you get triggered, then or have this experience that's external to you, then the body now knows how to move from fight or flight back into a parasympathetic state. So the trigger can now be managed and you can work through that. And then the last thing is that you have to release the trauma out of the body, right? And you release the trauma out of the body in 1,001 ways. But one of the ways that I really depend on and teach my clients is by raising the frequency in your body, right? Trauma is a very low frequency. Those experiences are negative. They have negative emotions and beliefs around them. And so it lowers the frequency in your body. When you raise the frequency in the body, those experiences literally leave the body. And so you operate at a higher frequency, which sustains a lot more wellness and wholeness, which is what most people are looking to align with.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And for people out there, for example, who would love to work more with you, connect with you, maybe even engage in your coaching program, what's the best way to do this? What's the best way to connect and work with you?
Yeah, so we'll have that in the show notes for you. So there will be a direct link and people can contact me if they would like to set up. I just do a free call or Zoom call, and we'll talk through what it is that you have going on. I know honestly that I cannot help everyone. So I like to talk to people up front and make sure that I feel like I can really help you. And if I don't feel like I can help you, then I certainly want to send you on your way to you can find somebody that is in alignment with you.
That's awesome. The link to your website will be in the show notes of this episode. Every other information will also be in the show notes of this episode. So I encourage everyone who has listened so far to click on the link, copy the link, and reach out, for a free call and see how it goes from there. Yeah. I mean, I've learned so much from you,
Great.
but just a very last question before I let you go. Very, very last one. For, I mean, just for someone out there, for a listener out there who is going through a very difficult situation at this moment, what message of resilience and empowerment would you share with such a person?
Yeah. I love it when people ask me this question. So my message is hope, that there's always hope. I spent after my car accident in particular, I spent those next 10 years of my life every single day waking up, believing that I had taken three people's lives and believing that I did not deserve the air that I was breathing. And I wanted my life to be over every single day. I'd go to bed and hope that I would not wake up the next day. And it was a very, very dark time in my life. And what I know is that I made it through. I made it through. And there are other people that I know that have made it through harder things than that. And what I know is that every moment up until this moment has gotten me here. And so what that means is you have a track record of perfect,
Mm,
that every day that you thought you couldn't make it, you did because you're here, right? Just like I am.
yes.
And so there's always hope, and something can shift unexpectedly that you didn't plan on, right? And it can just come out of nowhere. You can have a new thought that you've never had before that can open a door in a way that can lead you to freedom, and you didn't even know it was possible. So
Mm.
it's hope. It's hope that if I could do it and I made it all the way to today, that I can make it to tomorrow also. And something's going to shift. At some point, something will shift.
Something's gonna shift. Just keep on having hope. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful way to wrap up this civil conversation. I'm really, really grateful for your time and for you sharing about your story, sharing about, the lessons that you learned. I've learned a lot from it and it's really a blessing to me. Thank you so much.
My gosh, thank you so much for having me. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Hey there, podcast enthusiasts. Are you ready to add a little sparkle to your day? If you're loving the insightful conversations and captivating stories on Mirror Talk Podcast, here's a friendly nudge to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on the empowering messages and thought provoking discussions we bring to your ears. But wait, there's more. We're all about spreading positivity and inspiration, and you can be a part of it too. How? By sharing the love with your friends and family. Share this episode with your loved ones, and let's create a ripple effect of empowerment and growth together. And hey, if you've been enjoying what you hear, why not take a moment to leave us a glowing 5-star review? Your feedback fuels our passion to keep delivering content that resonates with you. So hit that subscribe button, share the love, and leave us a review. Let's keep the conversation going and spread the Mirror Talk magic far and wide. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, your support means the world to us.